Hello, Andy here, and thank you for joining me on this video where we're going to have a detailed look at the Longer Ray5 Mini. In full disclosure, Longer sent me this laser about a month ago and I have been using it, so I think I'm now well informed to make a video about it. It's not just going to be a sales video, it's going to be an in-depth look at the frame and then at the materials that I'm going to test it on. I'm going to test it on grey card, which is a cereal packet. I'm going to use white notebook paper. I'm going to use some wood. I'm going to test it on some leather. Now I know nothing about leather, so you're going to join me in this video doing some experiments on leather to see what results I can get. So basically crafting materials. And I almost forgot, I'm going to do some fantastic engraving on some black anodized business cards. And like anything, the quality of the material used dictates the quality of the engraving that you're getting, and I discover that in this video because this laser is really aimed at engraving. It does a very good job at engraving because the beam size is incredibly small. It's 0.04 by 0.04 millimeters. That is incredibly small. Now Longer also make the 2.5 watts, and again the engraving detail will be very much the same as this 3.5 watt. However, if you want to cut, it's going to need more passes than I demonstrate with this 3.5 watt. Anyway, please do watch the video all the way through. There are chapter markers down below as I give detailed information all the way through the video. So if you are considering this to be your first laser, and these lasers, as you may know because you've been doing your research, are very budget friendly. I give information all the way through the video about what you may need to purchase on top of just your initial purchase of the laser. Now I'm not trying to put you off, I'm just trying to be totally transparent in you don't just need to buy a box which is the laser and then you're going to need to plug it in and use it. There are other things you need to think about, and I give you all of that in this video. So please, if you've got any questions, drop them down below. I do answer them very quickly unless I'm sleeping in bed, and I'll answer them in the morning. But let's get into the video and perhaps you'll join me at the end. Cheers for now. So nice packing as always for Longer. So this is the Declaration of Conformity user guide, foam packing. Now that is what you call a baby, very cute laser, as my wife would say. So first impressions, unboxing. So that's aluminium profile. It's well made. No notching on the wheels. Sounds like it's got limit switches. Where are they then? Ah, look at that, limit switches underneath. So they're nice and hidden. So I didn't even get limit switches on my 10 watt. So that's great, they're installed already. So yes, look, that front part is plastic. These are aluminium, plastic shrouds around the wheels. These are your eccentric nuts and we'll cover those shortly. So yeah, I mean, that is a stiff little frame. Okay. Type C USB cord, power, on off switch, safety switch. Cable management is okay. Tiny little stepper motors, crossbar. Right, let's see what else we get in the packet. The start of the show. It's tiny. So what have they sent me? A 3.5 watt diode laser. They also come with a 2.5 watt. So I know that is magnetic. I don't know, I think that is a smoke guard. Yes it is. Fantastic. Well done, Longer. I am pleasantly surprised. So this is the part that you will be cleaning, and I'll do a cleaning video, and that is the actual optical lens in there. So I'm going to very carefully put that back on. Now on my 5 watt laser I'll have to go back and check that because that hasn't got a smoke guard. So that is a nice upgrade to see. Well, it's not an upgrade, that's standard. Now what this is a magnetic shield, and I'm not sure which way I took it off now. Why would that cutout be there? So this is a magnetic removable shield, and what that does when it's lasering, it tries to stop the bright light shining out, the blue light. And it's not the actual laser light, it's just the intense light. So that is doing two things. It's stopping light coming out into your surroundings, but this funnel effect is using the fan pressure from this cooling fan to try to assist removing the smoke or debris from your engraving. So that's fantastic, I do like that. So 3-pin module, little dinky fan. I think we'll do something on that a bit later. And the control board for it must be hidden, so where this connector is, this part must be the control board, but in later videos we'll take that apart and have a look, and we'll do a full cleaning video. Looks like the standard 6mm bottle brushes will get down there. So I'm happy on that. Now let's see what else we get. Obviously a small power supply, 12 volt 3 amp power supply, a pair of green safety glasses, and some tools. A USB type C power cord so you can connect that to a laser, a spanner to adjust the eccentric nuts. Now I didn't feel any notching on mine, so they're not needing an adjust at the moment. This piece of black acrylic is to focus the laser, and then the knob to lock it in position. Let's talk about, before we assemble the laser, let's make sure we've got a smooth running frame. So whenever we're moving the head, you need to move it slowly. You've got two stepper motors, one here and one here. This is driving left to right, this one's driving front to back. So even if the laser is not attached, when you move these stepper motors become generators, and what a generator does, it makes electrical voltage and current. So what that then is doing, it will feed that energy back into the control board, and I assume the control board's in here somewhere. Again, I will in later videos take that all apart and show you what's inside. So whenever you're moving the head around manually, you need to do it this fast. I'll rephrase that, you need to do it this slow. So I'm going to do it right the way across now. Literally, when you're moving it, you're thinking, oh, I'm moving this really slowly, and that is the speed you're doing it. If, when the laser is on, and we'll see later what power lights come up on this, if you move the head and when it's off and you see any lights glowing or you see the fan spin, that is a definite sign you're moving it too fast. So what I'm doing here, I'm moving this left to right, and if I've moved that 2 inches or 50mm and I feel a bump, that means my eccentric nuts have been too tight in the box. But no, they feel okay, there's no notch in there. Now I'm going to do this one. Nothing there. I'll link in the description a detailed video of eccentric nuts and how to adjust them, but very, very basically, you turn the laser over and here you'll see a nut, and this is an eccentric nut. So if you move that very slightly, you'll put more or less pressure on these wheels, and you've got 3, 1, 2 and a third one on the gantry. I am very pleased to see limit switches. Sorry if I've already said that, but longer, thank you very much for that. So it's got some rubber pads on the bottom to help it grip. Let's see if it grips on my tile. Wow, that does a good job. So this grey thing is a 600 porcelain tile. So even though you'll be engraving, you must have a fireproof material that you sit your laser on, and Yeah, that's not going to move anywhere. Okay, let's look at cable management. So there is a loop here to take that one. There's a loop here that holds that one there. That's the limit switch. There's braided and loops there, so that's good. Yeah, I can see the control board in there, but say we'll take that apart later on another video. Okay. You can just see down there possibly that you've got the cog and the tooth belt that's running over that. Anyway, we'll do a strip down and everything later in the video. These are plastic trims that are keeping the wheel covered, which is good. Basic cleaning, while we're talking about it, these grooves here on the aluminium profile, same with the wheels, you will have dust collecting on there, so just get a damp cloth, run it up and down there, and then as the gantry is moving, just run a damp cloth around the wheels, and that will just keep them running really smoothly. Okay, tiny stepper motors. Right, let's get the exciting bit done. So you've got 3 positions where you can install the mounting screw, but that's going to go in the top hole, and I'm just going to knit that up. Standard pin arrangement, they only go in one way. The plug here has got a smooth side and it's got a side with 2 pins on, so the side with the 2 pins on goes towards the laser. So line the plug up and then with your fingernail press it home. So I'm supporting the bottom of the socket and I'm pushing that down, and that's literally just clipped in there. So let's turn this on. Make sure the emergency stop button is up. If it's depressed, all you got to do is turn it in the direction of the arrows. You can see it pops up. So I've got everything connected. Let's power on. Now that's very quiet. Sounds like the fan is a soft start because it is actually ramping up in speed. Yep, definitely ramping up in speed. So I've never seen that on a laser before. Normally they just come on full blast. Seems like you have a power light here, and I assume when we laser something a different colour will come on. So I put some material underneath. I'm in an enclosure, and this is the slot at the back there is my extract system. So just to guide more wind suction into my laser, I put this extension piece on. It's just a rectangle, so it will suck the smoke away from that area better because I've got no lid. So in light burn, I've just got a small square, going to engrave it, and we're going to see what it comes out like, see if the laser works. So I'm going to frame it to make sure it works. I think we just need to go up a tad with that. Frame again. Okay, and hit start. Put your safety glasses on and go. It looks like I've put my shield on back to front. The curve in the manual should be at the back, but I've got my safety glasses on, so that's absolutely fine. Just use the recommended settings, which is given in the PDF document that is available on the Longer website. So this is in real time, just to give you an idea. Okay, there you go. Take my glasses off. So that's not too bad. Let's see if there's any soot. A minor amount of soot, so I could have de-adjusted the power slightly. Any soot on my finger means there's too much power, but for first test I'm happy with that. Now let's turn the wind off first. Let's talk about safety features.
Safety features. The main safety feature on this laser is your common sense and being aware that you are dealing with a laser. Just because this is only a 3.5 watt or a 2.5 watt doesn't mean to say it is not dangerous. As you can see, we just made cardboard burn. We've put damage onto the surface of the material and we've changed the colour, so we're burning that. If you get your settings wrong, you could quite easily have a fire. So the first thing you want to invest in is anti-fire spray. And yes, you're going to ask me what that is in the comments. That is a bottle of water, okay, in a spray bottle. Keep it to hand, because if there's a fire, you would hit the emergency stop button, lift the laser away, squirt whatever burning with your anti-fire spray, and you put the fire out. Never ever leave a laser unattended. This is more of an engraving laser than a cutting. It just takes longer. Did you see what I did there? It will take longer than, say, a 10 watt laser, because a 10 watt laser has more power, but it will cut, and I'm going to demonstrate cutting. The other safety features of this laser is it's got the anti-slip feet, so it's hard to move that. Now it's moving, I'm pushing a bit harder. Okay, so your common sense, anti-slip feet, a emergency stop button to be pressed at, everything should stop. There you go, flick it back on, will come back on. Now it doesn't have any additional sensing equipment, so if you jog the laser like this, or you walk past your table and you bump it and it jogs the laser will not stop. But you'll notice if you have jogged the laser, because your work area will move. Also, it doesn't have any additional fire sensor. On larger lasers, the longer 5 watt and upwards on their Ray5 frame, it has 2 additional safety functions. It has the movement sensor, so if you jog the laser or you tilt the laser, it will turn off, and it has a fire sensor at the back there. If you're worried about having a fire, don't be. Use your common sense, have a spray bottle, but also have a CO2 fire extinguisher and a dry powder fire extinguisher. CO2 is better for lasers because the CO2 will not damage the laser itself. The reason you have a backup dry powder one is because if the CO2 one hasn't put the fire out, a powder one should definitely put it out. You will need, as you get into your lasering hobby, you will need an enclosure. So this space here is an enclosure, and that slot at the back, if I now remove this, that slot at the back is connected to a 150mm extract fan. So when I put my lid on and the front, that's totally enclosed. It takes out all the fumes, because even though you're just engraving, you are creating particles which will be in the air, and you don't want to be breathing them in. So do think about an enclosure and getting a good extract fan. I have videos on my website all about that. I've just released videos about my own fire detection system, so I'll link below that. So that is a standalone fire detection system which will alert you by sound if that gadget back there detects a fire. Right, so what's my initial thoughts on this baby longer Ray5 Mini? I like it. I think it's well constructed. It's worked straight out the packet, which is always a good sign. Let's just turn it off. Seems to be well constructed. In a few other videos I will be taking it apart to look inside and see how it all works, if that interests you. I do like the way the plastic housings makes it look quite modern. It's got wire management which seems to work. The frame was built square. I will be doing some squaring test burns in later videos. So this video is the first of a mini series. Do you see what I did there? Ray5 Mini. Oh, Anyway, would I recommend this laser? Yes. If you're getting into the hobby, it's just over $130, I think it was. I'll put the links on the screen. So you can get into this at a very low cost. But do think about additional things you need. Anti-fire spray, fire extinguishers, something that won't burn that you can put your laser on. If we start doing a lot of cutting, we would think about investing in a honeycomb bed. So this is a honeycomb bed, very dirty at the moment. This is not essential at the moment, okay? So don't rush out and buy one of them. Okay, here we have cereal packet, which is grey on the inside and it's been painted on the outside or been printed by the manufacturer, and we're going to try standard speeds of 4,000 millimeters a minute, 50% power for engraving, and we're trying 4,000 for cutting at 100% power. Not sure whether it's going to work, but let's give it a go. Okay, this was a file that I actually redrew. It came standard with when I bought my longer 10-watt laser, and it only came with the G code, and when I investigated the G code, it actually looked a bit messy, so I sat down in Lightburn and I redrew it because I thought we could get far better quality by having a proper Lightburn file than just the G code. Anyway, at least that's marking. It is quite dark, so we'll wait for that to finish, and then we might try just adjusting the powers to see if we can get any more detail, if that needs doing. But from here, it does look good. So my laser is actually on a porcelain tile, so when this cuts through, there is no air gap at the underside of the material. Now you will quickly learn that if you do cut in, an investment in firstly an enclosure and a decent extract fan, and then secondly a honeycomb bed, so you can get air under your workpiece, and that saves scorching on the backside. And because it's made of steel, or the mesh is steel, the frame is aluminium, you can use magnets, because I'm not sure whether you saw on the wide angle shot that I've had to tape this down to the tile because cardboard is quite flexible and it doesn't want to lay flat. But yeah, I'm liking the detail of this. Now the advantage of having a low wattage laser is the beam size is incredibly small. From memory, this is 0.04 by 0.04, and my 10 watt is 0.06 by 0.06. Now that's a small number, and even that small increase from the 5 watt version to the 10 watt version, when you're doing fine detail, it can make a big difference. Anyway, we're going to be investigating that in later tutorials. So this is coming nice and dark, because you would expect it to be dark, because having grey cardboard, it actually assists the diode laser to scorch the surface. If you tried this on, let's say, the white inkjet paper, you find that the white doesn't want to burn, so we would have to increase the speed and power, and we'll actually try that later on in another test just to prove that I'm not talking rubbish. Anyway, this does look incredibly good, and that object is only 50mm square, or for my American friends 2 inches square. So once it's finished engraving, you should see it change speed, up its power, and then cut a square out so we can take a closer look. There you go. That's going to be too quick. That's not going to cut through. So I'm going to go around that again. So I'm going to frame, and I'm going to do that again. And I'll do that again. So now because again I'm using absolute corner, I'm going to move it out the way, undo a bit of tape without moving the card, without moving the laser, and just see. No, so that's not come through yet, so I'm going to change my power. So I'm going to home the machine, and I'm just going to now check what I've got on the cut layers. Yeah, that's way too fast. Why was I up there? So I've now gone to 500 millimeters a minute, 100% power. I've homed, I'm going to home again, going to frame. Now this is the first time I've cut this paper, so I had no idea what to do. So you can now see that's moving a lot slower. The line is a lot darker, so I'm hoping that will cut through. In a minute we're doing material tests and we'll find out exactly what power we can get away with on this serial packet. I think that bottom left hand corner is lifted, so it's obviously cut all the way through, and you can see that's dropped out. So I'm just going to push it out of the way, slowly. If you're ever moving that, move it really slowly. So I'm going to zoom in there so you can see it under the light. But you can see that is a good engrave. Okay, so let's do, and you see this is like a serial packet. So let's do a material test now in Lightburn. Now I've got something to work with because I've cut it, but I think that's too much power. Let me work out a matrix grid and we'll come back to the test. So just going to run this material test now and we'll see what we come out with. So if you're new to lasering, which you well may be because you're starting with a very affordable longer laser, in Lightburn and other systems, I will leave links below, you can run material tests. So like me here, this is a very good example of, I guessed a speed and feed for the engraving, and I also guessed for cutting. Now I've never cut grey cardboard on this 3.5 watt before, and as you saw I got the speed, well, either the speed way too fast or the power way too low, or a combination of them both. So what this material test does, and you don't have to engrave all the numbers if you don't want to, we can turn that off. But what it's now going to do is a series of boxes, because I've got a reference like 500 at 100% power cut through, but I believe that was too fast. So now what I'm doing, I'm going 500 up to 1000 in intervals of 5 steps, and I've also stepped the power from 80 to 100 in 3 steps. Anyway, you'll see the grid in a minute and we'll see what's going to drop out. Now it is going to cut the cardboard out because it's going to use the 500 speed, like this one now is 500 speed at 100% power, and hopefully that's going to drop out. Although on the last test when I cut the compass out, it did already have 3 burns around the outside, but I'll just see if I can flick that out. If not, we can run around it again. So that one is almost, oh sorry, that was off camera. So what I did, I just pushed these out. So now I've got, I knew that 500 at 500 speed at 100 cut through, and what I was trying to do is go faster. Now it's proved, this test has proved that I can't go much faster than 625. because none of these have dropped through. So what I'm going to do, I'm now going to rejig this test and make the difference between 500 and 625. Anyway, you'll see what I'm going to do. So just running some new tests here and we'll see what comes of it. So I used those speeds and powers to get rid of the top 3 speeds, because that's way too far. So just running my third material test now. Hopefully then we have the settings dialed in for cutting grey cardboard serial packing. You can see I've stuck the cardboard down a bit because it is lifting, and you'll soon learn in lasering that a difference of focus of even 0.5 millimetre can play a big difference. So as I said earlier in my review, I do like this little laser. One particular feature is it's got a smoke glass protection lens. I'll make sure I show you that before I finish the video as well. You do need to make sure it is kept clean using isopropyl alcohol and a Q-tip. At the moment, the spare for that isn't listed on the Longer website, but I have reached out to Longer asking them when a spare glass is going to be available. Slowly, 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 slowly. So I think we found our figures now. So I would realistically run you can see I changed the speed up to 5,000 against 4,000, and you can clearly see this one is darker and looks more detailed. This one is lighter and looks a bit washed out. Anyway, I think that concludes the test on the serial packet grey cardboard. Let's move on to something else. So now I'm just trying a sheet of notepaper out of my notebook, and I'm going to run the exact same test as I did for the cardboard. Because the cardboard was grey and this is white, my theory is the white will tend to reflect the power. But let's see. So definitely suffering from the paper not being flat, which will affect focus. So yep, as I thought, you can see, well, you can't see that that's not engraving the paper because the laser is being reflected. Let's see what the cutting does. We can sort out the engraving speeds later. Oh, that's encouraging. It's whipping through them boxes, so we can go a lot faster when we're burning white paper because the material is thinner. Although it's more reflective, it's thinner, so it doesn't need so much laser power. So I'm going to stop that test because it's done all the boxes, so that's fine. So what we'll do, slowly, slowly, slowly. So there we are, the final test is this one on the right hand side for standard notebook paper. You can see 1600 millimeters a minute works. The engraving is a little bit still too powerful. The P has dropped out, so there's too much power. So on that test, I was using 1500 millimeters a minute, 50% power to do the engraving, which is too much. But I think that'll do for that test. So that's just showing you, you know, where you have to pick some value and you're going to be wrong. Then you try and fine tune it, and then you tune it down to what you want to use. So let me just change that. So let's say 40% power for the next test. Okay, let's try something a little bit more interesting. So let's try some black aluminium business cards. On the PDF, they're suggesting 50% at 6,000. So I'm going to run 50% at 6,000. So I'm going to run 50% at 5,500 up to 7,000 and just see what results I get. See you at the end of the test. So let's see what we've got. We've got to wipe off the dust. If it's been removed, that is. Oh, look at that. So all of those speeds on this card has worked, and that was from 7,000 to 5,500. So I think we could go a lot quicker. So you'll notice there that I haven't put the numbers on, just because I'm doing loads of these tests. Don't actually need to put the numbers on. So let me do 7,000 and quicker then. So I'm now going from 8,000 up to 12,000 in 6 steps at 50% power. So when you're doing a material like this, obviously heat can play a vital part in the end result, because too much heat into the aluminium could start buckling the aluminium, and then that will upset your focus. So you want to try and do it with the least amount of power and the quickest speed to get a nice clean result. So let's see if we got any. I think we have. So let's see what we got. Still coming off. Well, I can't go any quicker because 12,000 is the fastest, and that is just as a silver as the last one. So let's drop the power. So that was 12,000 at the top, 8,000 at the bottom, 30 and 40% power. And you can see, I hope you can see on camera, that these two boxes now are a light brown colour, where these are silver. So now we've gone too fast. So I think we found our powers on this one. So let me go back. So this middle test here was 12,000 at the top, going down to 8,000 at 50% power. And to me, they're all the same silver, so that will do for a test. So let me just do a little tiny engrave up there now. Now we've got a power setting. So this is a reduced size compass now, and the compass is only 30mm square. I still can't believe the speed this is going. 12,000 millimeters a minute, 50% power, and it's doing this on a 3.5 watt diode laser. I have just spied a box on my shelf which I believe are quality black business cards. So once I've wiped this clean, I'll grab them. We'll do another test. Let's just see if I can scratch it with my nail. No, look, I can't scratch. Oh, I can't scratch it with my nail. That's not leaving any impression. Look at that. Okay, let me put that down there. Let's see whether I can get you. That is incredible. When you put it against that, you can see this material, cardboard, damages very easily and burns around the edges, where this is incredible detail. Okay, I found my other business card. These are actually thicker than these ones, and these are glossy. You can see that's glossy and that's not so. So these might get affected by, these are 0.2 mil and I think these are 0.4 mil. You can probably see the difference. Let's use exactly the same power and speed. So let's see how we get on with this different branded card with glossy material. Now that's strange. You might not be able to see that yet, but you can almost see the bare metal on these ones already. So I'm doing this also on a medium resolution. So the way you can get more detail is trying to pack more scan lines into your image. But for now, just take the standard settings, and in later videos, we'll cover some tuning of the laser, doing photos, doing pictures, canvases, etc., etc. Wow, that's coming, that almost looks gold. You probably can't see that because of the reflection. Yep, looking gold. How exciting is that? So this business card is from a company called Ray, which produce some fantastic lasers. They normally concentrate on CO2 lasers, and I think they now do fiber lasers. They're not into the diode lasers. Now that looks silver to you. To me, it's looking, oh, it does look, no, it does look gold. Probably just some dust laying on it, which needs to be cleaned off. There is no dust. Wow. There is no dust. And I think that could probably go slightly hotter because that metal is looking gold. Let me put my glasses on and have a look. No, that's definitely silver, and that has engraved much nicer than the other cheaper business card. So it's like anything, you get what you pay for. But that is fantastic quality. And I'll tell you what the settings were on that business card. So Cloud Ray business card, 12,000 millimeters a minute, 50% power at 0.06 line interval with a 2.5 mil overscan. Now don't worry if you don't understand all that, just make a note of that and we can use that in other videos. But I am blown away. I think the detail is in both of them, but because this is a blacker card and it's glossy, this is black but dull. You can see there how the light is shining off it. I just think the added contrast of that black card makes the quality look better. Right, next material. You do need good extract for this. Leather. This is a quality leather. Come from a quality company. Can't tell you what the company name is. Not sure how it's been manufactured, whether it's sort of a natural leather or they've treated it with chemicals. On the PDF chart, they say leather, engrave at 70 power, 4,000 speeds. That's what I'm going to try. So my extract must be working because I can't smell that, and it would normally smell like burning flesh, I assume. I think that's going to be overburnt myself. It all depends on the type of leather, I would assume, not being into crafts, etc. Yeah, see that black soot that came off. So let's try another box above it, somewhere about there where it goes faster. So the first box one was 4,000 at 70. I'm now at 6,000 at 70. And again, with delicate materials like this, we'll do other videos where we play with the line interval. So this is how many lines the laser is burning in 1 square inch. Now, if you try and burn too many lines in a square inch, you end up with lines burning over lines. And that does two things. You can start a fire very easily, and it will create a lot of charcoal, and you'll lose a lot of detail. Still some charcoal there, so let me go even faster. Well, let's drop the power now this time. So this one's going to be, let's do it by the, oh, let's do it up there. We're going to do 6,000 at 50% power. $6,000 at 20% power. Line in full is 0.08, by the way. So 0.08 is a big line interval for this laser because this laser's got a very small spot size. So I'm spacing the lines out, trying not to overburn the material. Ah, yeah, a lot lighter this time. So we'll take those out in a minute, but let's try and cut a square now. So I think that was too light, but it depends what effect you're going for. So let's change that to a cut layer. The chart's telling me 100% power at 250 speed. How many passes? 1 pass. Let's see what that gives us. Now we should smell some burning. Yeah, you can see that's quite slow. No, that didn't make it all the way through. Now, having never done leather before, so we're already at 100% power. So, oh, I can smell it now. So let's go down to 150. This will probably burn the edges more, so we may have to do 2 passes to try and reduce the burning on the edges of the material. And I know nothing about cutting leather, so if anyone's cut leather, please get in touch. Now I am ripping bits off that, so again that's still not right. So this is 200 millimeters a minute, 100% power, 3 passes, and when I take that leather I measure it because I know the thickness of the leather is going to, so that's my flame sensor going off. I've got a flame sensor in my enclosure. So we're probably overburning this material. Yeah, it certainly went through. And very charred. Let me make sure I've still got focus there. That is a bit tight, so this is going to be 300 millimeters a minute, 100 power, 2 passes. Yeah, I think that's all the way through. Just a little hair caught on there, so let's just do a... Possibly when you cut leather, you're always going to get charring because of the type of material. And just try and go faster. Let me measure how thick this leather is. It's 1.7 mil thick. So let me, now that I've definitely focused, 500 2 passes, trying to reduce the charring. Looks nice and clean. Yeah, not all the way through though. 350, 100%, 2 passes. Again, not quite all the way through. A few whiskers there. So this is 200, 2 passes, 100% power. So it can definitely do it. You just got to fine tune it. Now let's have a look at the engraving. So it's all going to depend on the colour of your leather, the type of leather, and what it's been treated with. Okay, so we've been doing a little bit of engraving. Let's take the laser off. That's not too dirty, but let's have a look inside the laser and see if we've got any dirt inside it. You probably won't be able to see in there very easily, but the lens, the smoke guard, this part unscrews on the 5-watt. You can take it right off and you can clean this part. But, well, sorry, you can take it off and replace it. If you take it off, it reveals the optical lens. So down there is the optical lens. You don't want to get dirt in there, and this part is replaceable. But at the moment, it doesn't need cleaning. So checking the data sheet, we are doing 90 at 3000. I think maybe a little bit dark, so that was 3000 millimeters a minute, 90% power, 1 pass. Anyway, I think that concludes this little introduction into the laser. A quick intro in what it can cut, and it can cut a lot more. We're just scratching the surface on materials, but I've shown you some common materials that are used. So it's proved itself to be an excellent engraving machine. That's what it was made for. There will be a lot more videos to follow. If you've got any questions, drop them down below. I am active on Facebook and YouTube. I do answer the questions as quickly as I can. So hopefully you've gained something from this. And in the next video, we will do some maintenance. Oh yeah, by the way, check out the link below. My discount code may save you 5% if you purchase directly from Longer, unless the laser is on a crazy sale. Then I believe the discount code doesn't work. But anyway, let me know if you've saved some money. Anyway, that's Andy as ever, wishing you a great afternoon. Continue to make some happy, safe smoke, and perhaps you'll join me in my next video.
Thank you for making it to the end of my videos, much appreciated. If you like what I'm doing and I've earned your trust and respect, perhaps you would consider subscribing. If you leave a comment, I will answer them as well. And if you give me a thumbs up, it will put a smile on my face. Perhaps you would like some of the videos popping up now. See you in the next one.